Welcome back, everybody. We are going to move on to a presentation from Mark Buhl, who's from DataHarvest, and he's going to be talking about the journey to find value in agri-packaging and using Velcro as a case study. Mark is the Vice President and Business Development Director and co-founder of DataHarvest. He co-founded DataHarvest, which has been bringing big data into systems-based farming since 2006. Mark is also the president, CEO, and co-founder of Global Agricultural Technical Experts, otherwise known as GATE, based in Santiago, Chile. GATE develops cost-effective solutions for the entire agricultural food chain, with a focus on improving the quality, condition, and shelf life of fresh produce using science-backed research and cutting-edge technology. So I'm really excited to have Mark with us today to talk about what Velcro is doing and how it's sort of revolutionizing agriculture. So Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start with a journey to find value in agricultural packaging. And my name is Mark Buhl, like Beth said, and I'm a 25-year veteran in produce export. I focus on foreign-to-foreign markets, so from Mexico to Asia or Chile to Europe, with some quite a bit of experience into the United States as well. And I've focused a lot of my last 5 to 10 years of my career on consulting for large retailers, supermarkets, and such forth on their fresh produce chains and supply programs. So, like Beth said, I work with a group of subject matter experts. We're a global group of subject matter experts under the GATE banner. And we work with a number of large-scale agricultural groups to help find solutions for problems in the industries. And we have a very large global footprint. We have PhDs in South Africa, in Chile, in Europe, and around the world, and a number of large-scale farms that are our collaborating partners. So Velcro was one of the companies that had come to GATE with an interest in looking at the agricultural sector and seeing where they might be able to bring value into the industry. And what was great about Velcro is they had no assumptions on where they would fit or what they would do. They're an attachment company. Their focus is on attaching things, and so they came with a very open mind to see what they could do and participate in the agricultural sector. It's a family-owned business. It's been around for almost 80 years, and it's a fantastic company. It's got a wonderful story. I'd like to tell it briefly so you just kind of understand how Velcro came about. A gentleman named George de Mestral was a Swiss inventor, and he was walking in the forest one day with his very shaggy dog, and his dog started to collect all these burrs and stickers onto his fur. And it really perplexed Mestral on how that worked and how long they stayed there. And he says, I believe we can make a product that mimics this. And so they started out a number of years ago with creating the original Velcro, which you see on a number of your shoes, or you see on your daily products. You see it in Home Depot. You'll see it at Lowe's. It's very common. But there's so many other things actually since that time that Velcro has been incorporated into, and I think it's really interesting to understand what they work on. I mean, first, Velcro is one of the products that NASA relied on for their programs. Whether they went to the moon or not, that's a whole other question. But the reality is that that products were used in a lot of the NASA projects for attaching things and enabling different components to work together or be connected to one another. So from everything from cars to building materials, roofing tiles, medical devices like defibrillators, blood pressure cuffs, the smallest little devices used in implants, diapers, the very, very small pieces of connections that people use on diapers, most of that is created by the Velcro Corporation, and it's a very protective piece of material for a soft baby skin. So they have an entire range of products that allows them to be very responsive. So, why did Velcro look at agriculture? Well, they thought, well, it's an interesting space to find a lot of fasteners. It's a place that's constantly turning over. There's a lot of use of materials and attachments in agriculture, and with the advent of trellising and net shade houses and covers, all these things are really creating an interesting opportunity for a corporation that attaches things and joins things together. Current plastic uses on the farms for attachments and infrastructure, there's lots of them. You see them every day. When I go out into the farm, I see them everywhere, whether it's the green tape that they use to tie trees to posts, or whether it's little clips or whatever. There are plastics all throughout the field, and they're constantly being reused. And I mean, not reused in the farm, but actually they put more and more every year. Every year they go in and they retie the green. They don't take those plastics out. They fall down into the ground and they become a part of the actual farmland. So we need to find ways to solve getting those plastics out of the field. The other thing is that labor is so expensive nowadays that you can have a very inexpensive piece of a tool or an attachment, but if it takes a long time to deploy it or to install it, that cost against the labor has to be effectively analyzed against the overall cost of the actual tool or material itself, so that you get a full understanding of whether that product actually has a real efficiency on the farm. Where are real efficiencies on the farm found? Well, when you look at the breakup of a farm with their costs, and you say, if you have a $10 million in costs on a farm, what we find is water tends to be in the 10-15% range. Labor tends to be in the 25 to 35% range of those costs. So labor is really the big cost around farming, and we need to look to how we reduce that, how we minimize that, and how we keep labor efficient in the field. So Velcro thought this is a great opportunity for us to bring attachments in the field that may be much quicker for the labor and much more efficient and easier to get out of the field after it's used. So what does it mean when you're looking for value in the agricultural sector? When you're developing products that are really going to be for the next 15 years, and we're not solving the problems of the past, we're hopefully solving the problems of the future. And what are those problems of the future? Well, we know that labor is outrageously expensive and is driving where we go and how we farm for the next umpteen decades. Automation is a reality. It's coming day by day. We see it creeping into the field. We see it with weed control. We see it with picking now. We see it with packing. We see it along the packing lines themselves. So automation is coming, and the labor force that will be utilizing these products most likely will be automated in themselves. So I think that's interesting. Smart packaging is truly the way of the future. Packaging that has multiple uses, not just a single use, but multiple uses to create multiple values for the farmers. Whether that is it's originally the packaging piece is originally designed to solve one problem, but then can incorporate a secondary problem, creating multiple values for the farm. I think those are important things when we're looking at setting up projects. And then last is digitally integrated. A lot of the products that we have, we need to be able to oversight and track through the field and be able to keep notice of how much we have and how much we've used, and how much we pulled out, what our carbon footprint is. So digitally integrating those pieces so we know that we can oversight them more effectively, I think is a real challenge for the future products that we're developing. Who do we build the products for, and who finds value in them? Well, I think for us, for the Velcro team, and for any of the other people that Gate works with as a group, we feel that you have to find value along the entire supply chain. If I build a product that only accommodates the farmer's needs and desires, what I'm missing out is the desires and needs of the retailer sector. The retailer sectors have their own agendas and desires and how they're pushing farming. And so they have a desire to, say, remove plastics, where a farmer may want to add plastics, and a consumer may want biodegradable plastics. So everybody has a different version of what they need. We need to develop products that speak to all of those stakeholders and that are accommodating, so that we are building products that have real value and sustainability into the years to come. The context of the entire supply chain is so important. You cannot just build a packaging product that suits just the farmer, or suits just the ripener, or suits just the transportation company. It has to have complete context of the entire supply chain. Consumers are in control. Truly, they are in many ways on packaging. The consumer comes up with an idea, or there's a social awareness around certain products or certain things, and those things really start to press back on the retailers. And the retailers at that point really don't have much of a play other than to then push that down to the farmers. So the consumers have a tremendous amount of control, and we have to look to educating them so that they understand the control that they do have. I think it's wonderful that there is such a direct feedback, but I think that we need to make sure that we're making sound decisions around what we're doing to create sustainability. Velcro, being a very plastic resin-oriented company, had to take the approach of seeing where their products would best be ingested and then brought out of the actual supply chains itself. So what I mean by that is Velcro recognized that there's a lot of plastic going into the field. What we wanted to do is get that plastic back out of the field so that we could account for all of it. So we wanted to make sure that the products we were building would not only have a single use, we wanted to eliminate single-use plastics. We wanted to create multiple-use plastics, ones that could be used for 1, 2, 3, 5 crops, up to 10 years on some of these products that we're building. We wanted to create products that could be upcycled. Maybe it starts off as a tree wrap for a citrus bit, but then you can cut them into smaller pieces and use them for trellising of the citrus as the trees grow taller. We have different sizings of products that can be changed with the growth habits of the trees and such forth. So lots of different ideas around being able to not only put the product in the field, but get it out of the field, use it multiple times, and get the most value out of the product itself. So how did Velcro go about doing this? Well, one of the first things we did is we recognized that we don't know anything. Velcro knew nothing about agriculture, and we needed to learn. And learning was the key component. So we went to all of these farming operations that we had targeted, large-scale farming agricultural groups, and we started listening to them, listening to what are their issues, what are their problems, what do they need, how do we work with them, listening to all points of the supply chain, both the farmers, but along the transportation, the retailers, everyone, learning from every side of it. We built numerous proof of concepts, kept our minds completely open with very small egos, because as soon as you put a proof of concept out, the first thing that happens is you start getting a tremendous amount of feedback and criticisms, and so you've got to keep that all in mind as you're building that product of the future. Lots of trialing, proof of concept trials, product trials, semi-commercial trials, commercial trials. All of those, learning through every component of those pieces. Then the type of partners that you trial with is absolutely crucial. You know, I've seen groups in the agribusiness industry. They'll have a friend who happens to be a small tomato grower, and they'll go test products and such forth with these small entities or these very verticalized groups. And the problem is that those small agricultural entities don't have the same mentality or approach to how they handle agriculture and what's important to them and what brings value to the farm. So because those small entities don't replicate the large-scale agriculture, we try and work with large groups that are 5, 10, 15% of an industry, 15% of the citrus industry, 10% of the grape industry. Those are guys that when you trial with them, their neighbors are looking over the fence. They want to see what they're doing. They're constantly want to mimic what's going on. So we try and work with large scale partners that are already driving the industry in the direction it needs to go, so that when we come up with these interesting, viable products, we're actually now have a marketing component as well, where everybody is utilizing it, and you have a better amount of adoption. People start getting introduced to the product quicker. So word of mouth really starts to move. So it's very important on who you pick your partners with. Market data is extremely crucial. Understanding, who is it? Are you using a distributor? Are you using direct sales? All those things are important. And then finally are you going to come in from a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach? Meaning, are you going to approach the farmers and sell them your products? Or are you going to approach the retailers and have the retailers say, oh, this is wonderful, this helps us on our resin recapture program, and have them mandate it down to the farmers? So there's different ways of coming into the market and approaching it. All of those were things that we were learning about as we came in to see what was available. So let's get into the fun part with actual plastics and such forth into the field. So one of the things that Velcro wanted to do when they came into the field was they wanted to start by protecting young trees with wraps. There's a huge market for wraps. Every year you're constantly planting, you're replanting, trying to keep up with the demand of the industry and markets. And so there's always trees. So that's obviously very interesting to Velcro. There's a tremendous amount of tree wraps that go out, whether they're wax cartons, which really have no recyclability to them, or closed cell foam, EPS, or a number of different products that are put around trees nowadays to protect them from a number of different things. But at the end of the day, they last about a year, maybe two, and then they're gone. They have no way of being able to be stored on the farm once they are removed. So they're usually just thrown away, and they have no recyclable value to them. So Velcro wanted to create something that could be easily stored, that could protect the vines and trees from insects and animals, that could be environmentally friendly and 100% recyclable. So they started building tree wraps out of PE. And these PE and rPET as well. So as they started building these wraps with the idea that you can use it for 2 years, it has a 10-year life cycle. You can use it for the next crop, and you get to constantly reuse these materials. And for that, we started looking at the opportunities in the field among other products as well. The other thing is storability. When these Velcro wraps come out, they're able to be stored flat. You just flip one every other way, and they can store as flat as pieces of paper, and then they can be easily deployed. They can be washed in a dishwasher or in any kind of washing machine. So they're a very useful product that allows you to get plastic into the field and get the plastic back out when you need it out of the field. The other thing that we looked at when we saw tree wraps is an opportunity to look at targeting certain things into the fields. So whether we want to start controlling things like earwigs or ants or other things like that, the ability to have a tree wrap where you can deploy secondary pieces of equipment like a patch that combats earwigs is something that's very valuable to farmers. They combat earwigs all the time. They're using diatomaceous earth. They've lost Lorsban as something to combat. So we need to find viable ways to start protecting the tree. So here you have a tree protector that not only creates value for protecting it from animals, but now you have a tree protector that can protect it from the insects that they're battling with every day. You have the ability to recapture those chemicals by pulling that focused piece of material off of the tree protector and having it go back to a traditional tree protector. And then you can remove the entire tree protector together. The other thing that's really important to say is that the deployment of these tree protectors is basically a square box that they put in a bunch of buckets. They walk out into the field, and then they try and squish the square box into a round shape and then slide it over the tops of the trees. Well, when you have Velcro and you can open and close it, what we found is that the workers can move across the field 2/3 faster than they can when they're doing it the traditional way. So when you're talking about setting 100 vines, we could have a worker to go across the entire field, do 100 vines before the traditional way could get 1/3 of those vines done. So those kinds of things are where we see real value added to the farmer. As soon as the farmer sees that the worker that's using the Velcro wrap is all the way across the field, it's not a hard conversation to have. Trellis attachments. Trellis attachments, again, we're using PE, UV protected trellis attachment that can be changed for size. So it can be deployed in the very early stages. You see a young lady here deploying this on some young vines. And what's going to happen is over the course of the next 3 years, that vine's circumference and diameter is going to change dramatically. And the ability to be able to change that without having to bring more tools into the field, without having to bring more material into the field is really key. So even in the beginning, as this is not necessarily particularly much faster for the worker to deploy the Velcro trellis attachment, as he wants to size it and change it over the future, it becomes infinitely more efficient for them. And it creates a very good connection with the tree and the trellis that can be somewhat dynamic. It can move. It's not static. It can move slightly. And we're working on elasticity on the products as well, so that those can move and grow even more with the tree. So those are exciting. Again, automation and such forth. You see nowadays they're moving to these handguns when they're doing these trellising attachments. And we're working with Velcro and other groups to find tools that will help create that efficiency as well for labor mitigation on Velcro deployments. And then sustainability schemes are crucial. They're coming in from the retailers, they're coming in from the industry, and being able to track your plastics is important. So, getting them out of the field again is truly a crucial component of it. Here is a example on the right-hand side, upper right-hand corner of your screen of what is normally used to attach a tree to a trellis wire. And what you see is a tremendous amount of plastic and material that is being wasted to do this attachment. And also the amount of labor that was created to have to deploy that was tremendous and not efficient. So the ability to be able to come in and deploy a Velcro attachment, similar to what you have here, or even just the ones without the small gusset on it that are just the Velcro itself, the PE gusset, or the PE strips themselves. It's fantastic. They last for 10 years. We do have a green version that I'll show you that is actually made to only last for 3 seasons. It's not UV protected, so it's a shorter life product. Here's another example of how infrastructure is being connected in the field using different types of materials from Velcro. On the upper top of the panel, you've got a polyester Velcro, which is a more traditional. You've got, then down the next one, you've got a polyethylene version. And then on the right-hand side, you have a Kevlar version. Then you also have a polyester slash it's polyester and PE mixed grouping on a material. And so they all have been performing quite well and on infrastructure holdings. And so we're excited about where that's going. Again, the most important part is to be able to get these materials out of the fields as we get them in. It has a lot of value for tree and limb support, has a lot of value for mechanical harvesting. And the biggest component, I think, is it is really no tools that are needed in the field. When you send workers out into the field, they don't need to have knives, they don't need to have clippers, they don't need to have any kind of attachments. Velcro, it attaches to your clothing very easily, and you can walk out into the field and everything's perforated at the size that you need. So no more thinking about how much longer does this need to be to connect this. So The idea is to put an 8-inch strip on this one, and everything came in an 8-inch strip. The worker no longer had to work. All they need to focus on is getting 2 inches of overlap, and their job is done. Plastic reduction that's consumer facing. So one of the projects that Velcro has been looking at is trying to reduce pathogens and to create food safety opportunities for farms that want to score highest on their food safety audits and food safety schemes, sustainability schemes. And one of the problems that they've been having is that pick bags did not have an ability to be cleaned very easily for the food safety requirements. So the idea was to create a barrier or a liner that could be utilized that didn't impede workflow, that could be 100% recyclable, and could create a lowered pathogen load at the beginning of the overall picking of the oranges. There's a number of kill steps behind it, so I don't want to overemphasize the value of reducing the pathogen. I think what's most important here is the good practices around food safety and having a clean bag when you start work every day. So that's what most of the industry is really excited about. And so we created a bag liner that integrates directly into any of the bags, fits all of the different sizes for whether it's citrus, stone fruit, avocado, limes, lemons, mandarins. It fits all the bags. And we found that there is definitely a serious pathogen load reduction. But we're not going to be too harping on that. I think it's more about good food safety practices. And then the last part is that this product has the ability to have 100% recyclability. You put it into the field and you get it out. And we're building in a digital application. Each of the bags will be labeled with a digital trigger, and the application is created for the field boss. The field boss has the ability to check the bags out to the worker and check the bags in. And then the bags, when they're checked in, because the bag is 100% PE, we have the ability to recycle the entire bag. Here's some quick little video I'm going to share with you of how this bag deploys on the farm and in the field. And I think it's important to understand that you'll see it's non-intrusive to what they're doing on their daily workflow. And I think that's one of the key components when you're developing a product. Fairly intuitive, and we also
You're gonna make it color coded so they know front and back too would be the idea, but
Instead of front and back.
not really.
Yeah.
But if you're doing the Mandarin box, there is a little bit difference.
So that's that. You can see how quickly they put the bag in. I think that's really important when you're looking at products that work in the field, is really making sure that they don't impede workflow, that they don't create any problems. The guys can move up the ladders the same way. They can get into the field. They can get into the trees. They can pick the fruit. Everything needs to be the same. Anytime there's a disruption, that's an issue. One of the things that we found that was really key about this product was the ability, when it would dump the fruit, it was much quieter. You didn't have the fruit rubbing against the inside of the canvas bag. So we thought that was pretty exciting. That we felt it was much softer on the fruit, much quieter here at the dump, and the workers all felt, similarly to that issue. So those are some points on that. Here's another project that we're working on to try and reduce packaging and plastics in the field. This is a consumer bag. You would see it. This is a chicken bag, or you could use it for a cherry bag, apple bags, whatever is needed. But what we're doing is, normally these bags have been using like a Ziploc, spaghetti close, or a slider even, with an actual, they call it a train that moves across the slider track. those sliders are very expensive, actually, because at this point, those sliders are actually made out of a different material than the bag itself. And then there's an adhesive for the actual Ziploc track that messes with the recyclability codes. What Velcro has, or what Velcro's aspiring to do, is they have a PE closure that can work for these bags that doesn't need an adhesive, that can be connected to the bag. And effectively, we can homogenize the recyclability code of effectively a consumer bag. You see the Ziploc bags that you see at home that you put your sandwiches in, that bag's recyclability code is a 7 because of the menagerie of different products that are contained in that Ziploc bag. The idea is to have one PE code across the entirety of the product itself, and that way the consumer, when they actually recycle the product, knows it's going into the places that it's supposed to be recycled for. So, the retailers are excited about the idea. We can reduce the amount of plastic. We don't have as much weight of plastic that's needed for the closer. So for Europe and places like that, where they're looking at taxing your weight on your packaging, you have an advantage there. The packaging opening on the Velcro Ziploc or press lock doesn't need as much of a. It allows a larger mouth opening, so you can actually reduce the size of the overall bag because the weld points are no longer necessary, and it allows you to have a smaller mouth of the bag. So maybe a bag that's 12 inches wide normally can go down to 11 inch. Now you've got an 8% reduction in plastic just for that. So things like that are interesting and exciting. This is aspirational. These are things we're working on. These are things that we hope will add value. And, that's our hope there. I would say, the overview is there is a strategic need for plastics in the field. You're not going to be able to remove them, but we need to know where they're used, where they have real value, and we need to be able to get them out of the fields, is our thoughts. And so that's really important for us. There's numerous concerns for the industry, obviously, around labor and water shortages and mandates around abolishing plastics and such forth. So those are concerns, but I think we feel overly optimistic. And as we educate people on what the actual advantages are and how we can actually drop waste outside by using the right products in the field, I think that will help to pave the way for a smarter use of plastics. And we are very optimistic with innovative products and what we can produce and what we can create. And with all the advent of the shade houses and net structures and the interesting ways that people are growing products nowadays that are basically thumbing their nose at nature and saying, we're going to do it no matter what. I think that attachment and innovative resins and different products like that are going to be needed in these types of industries in the very near future. So we're very excited about where this stands. So with that, I'll conclude. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. That was great. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. So we'll take a couple now, and then we'll hold others for the discussion time. But if anyone would like to ask a question, please let us know. Oh my goodness, I thought there'd be tons. Well, I have a question. I'm sure they're going to come up, Mark. You talked about that consumer bag, and I've seen other kinds of products on the market, like dog food package and maybe a bag of like beans or rice. I've seen it on rice. It looks like it's Velcro. So are you saying that there aren't any products for produce yet on the market that are using a Velcro closure?
No. So Hill's Pet Foods are using it. You probably have seen it there. You'll see it on some rice and some different bean companies. And we're moving to the smaller consumer bags where you see it. There's a couple competitors that have created bags for like your delis and your retailers. So for like your turkey meats and ham and cheeses and stuff like that. It's an interesting closure for those items. partly because it still allows the product to breathe, where when you close a slider or a Ziploc, you're basically closing it off and things can become anaerobic. You've got issues with temperature. Velcro allows the product to still breathe and respirate. And we're looking at what those respiration rates might mean. So the bag that we want to create, Beth, for the future consumer is going to take into consideration respiration rates, like say for cherries or for meats or for cheeses. They'll be specific to those. We'll be looking at closure, tactile experiences for the consumers so they know that they've got it locked. But those are things that we're working towards and experimenting on currently.
Great. I think there's a couple questions in the chat. Is that right, Matthew?
Let's see.
I think they were just wondering if they can get a link shared with them.
Sorry, can you say that a little louder?
They just were wondering if a link can be shared in the chat so they can find out more about the Velcro products.
Did you catch that, Mark?
So Velcro is, we're keeping our heads down really at this point. This is very nice of them to allow us to talk about this as an agricultural bit, but they haven't announced to the world effectively that we're out in agriculture as of yet. You're definitely welcome to take a look at their website. Over the next year or so, they'll be getting related to those products, but you're welcome to reach out to us and we can connect, and I can share the team of Velcro and they can keep you informed of when these things are going to be actually coming to fruition.